They had to go and almost implode in a way.
What year was it? 72?
I know the folklore, obviously.
The sense of being exiled, the sense of being, you can't go home. You can't go home. And I think this music reflects that.
The Rolling Stones were on a roll. Between 1968 and 1972, they put out 4 albums that many fans say are their greatest, and some even say they're among the best rock albums ever made. Their last album in this amazing streak was a double album called Exile on Main Street. It was a wild ride to close out this epic period, just like you'd expect from the Stones.
The thing about Exile on Main Street is that there wasn't a sort of master plan. We just accumulated material knowing that we would use it one day. Move your head.
Most folks know the story behind the album's name. The band had to leave England for a while.
They were running away from England.
Why did they, so they literally got booted out?
Because of high taxes.
English tax exiles. This would be a popular English rock and roll story.
There was a feeling that you're being edged out of your own country. And the British government was scared by the number of fans that we had, I suppose. You know, they couldn't ignore that we were forced to be reckoned with. And sometime in the end of the year, we had to make the decision. It was like, well, we all wanted to keep going, right? So let's just move. I mean, we're not sort of rooted in England. We've been around the world half the time. Anyway.
We were supposed to live this life, you know, limousines you had to have, and you had to have this, that, and the other. And the money just flew, you know, so you were always in debt. None of us had paid tax. We thought we had. We thought that had been dealt with. And it hadn't. Tax under the Labour government, Wilson, was 93%. If you earned £1 million, which we didn't, you'd end up with 70 grand. So it was impossible to earn enough money to pay back the inland revenue and stay here in England.
In those days, if a band was big in England and then left England, that was the end of them. You didn't like them anymore. It's curtains, you know. And then when you leave for tax reasons, it's really not very cool.
I had to get out of the country to pay the tax incurred for me. That's why I had to leave. Let that be a warning to you.
Well, I ended up there because that's where everybody else went. My boys I play rock and roll with left the country. We were invited to go, and we went.
I joined the Stones in May or June of '69, and so I hadn't earned enough money or done enough work on that level to have any kind of tax problems. But one of my most vivid memories is being flown there in our own private jet. I thought, my God, this is this is the high life. This is wonderful.
So they rented a place in France to make their music.
We tried various cinemas and public halls that one might rent, and we just never found a suitable site. And in the end, we chose convenience, I suppose, over sound, and went for the basement of Keith's house.
We said, well, we have this truck, our own mobile studios. Why don't we just forget about them and just bring in the truck and work around the problems? You know, at least this way we don't have to sort of ask for an interpreter every time we want to turn it off or on, you know. Basically, I think that the Stones really felt like exiles. You know, it's us against the world now. Yeah, that was kind of the attitude. We said, well, we're all going to do this, boys. We're all just going to move out and be a family and do it, and here's the place. And in a way, it was energizing.
I just moved to France, and I used to have to drive like a 6.5, 7-hour drive from where I live on these little roads. I couldn't do it every night, you know, play and go home. So I lived with Keith. I lived in a room upstairs, and Keith lived in a huge bedroom up above that, and it was quite, I mean, it was pretty together, really, in a mad sort of way. We would work any time in 24 hours. So if it was 11 o'clock at night, it would go for another 12 hours, or if it was at 12 o'clock midday, it would go for 12 hours, you know, whatever time. That's why you had to live there.
But even though they were in Europe, the music on Exile on Main Street is a mix of blues, soul, country, and rock. A sound that's all over the map in the best way possible.
The Lucifer of rock, the Pied Piper, the rebellious young millions who in the 1960s made rock music the official language of their unfocused but unmistakable affection from tradition.
I think you can use the Stones as markers. They certainly captured the times. The hippie, peace, love, acid thing was long gone, and there were different times.
Middle America couldn't believe what was happening to their kids. They were listening to this music, buying their albums, album covers with pictures of the boys lying around in homes, making parents sick, and people across the country thought, oh no, what can we expect next from the Stones?
Exile on Main Street is a rarity among double albums. It boasts 18 tracks, each a gem in its own right.
We always went to LA to finish our records. That was a sort of our modus operandi. So yeah, we went off to LA.
It was kind of fun playing it to lots of musicians and friends in LA. Interesting to get their input, because everything that went on in Elcott, it was just like, it was a bubble, really.
We'd never made a double album before, so we didn't quite, I don't think we were a bit naive about it. It was just a bit too much work, considering that we'd had all these pressures, plus we were just a bit burned on it. I remember Keith even saying, I'm so burnt out on this record, but we still got loads and loads of unfinished songs. Some of them had fragmentary lyrics, and some of them had none at all. So we had a big mountain to climb.
Here's a closer look at each track, showcasing the brilliance of this legendary album.
Now we are.
Kickstarting the wild ride that is Exile on Main Street is the opening track, Rocks Off.
I hear you talking when I'm on the street.
This song isn't afraid to get dark and down to earth, setting the mood for the whole album. The lyrics deal with someone struggling with addiction and its effects. Even though the topic is heavy, the Stones turn it into a rocking anthem. The song is full of their signature energy, with layered vocals, a driving beat, and a wild, distorted guitar solo in the middle. It's a classic Stones track that shows why they're one of the greatest rock and roll bands ever. Up next, on Exile on Main Street, is a scorcher called Rip This Joint. This high-energy rockabilly song is pure Stones magic. Mick Jagger sings his heart out, racing through the lyrics like a runaway train. The song is a wild story about a visitor traveling across the southern U.S., dropping names of cities and hinting at some wild times along the way. There's even a shout-out to a famous groupie named Barbara Cope, who was known as the Butter Queen. Let's just say it's a nickname with a story, but that's one for you to explore on your own time. This is a fun, fast-paced song that will get you moving. Shake Your Hips is a cool tribute to a blues song by Slim Harpo from 1966. Stones were big fans of blues music. And this is their way of showing their appreciation.
A lot of Exile was done how Keith works, which is play it 20 times, marinate Like another 20.
The song is a bit different from the first two tracks because it has a simpler sound.
You know, Keith's a very bohemian and eccentric, in the best terms, person. He really is.
With fewer instruments and effects, this change of pace keeps things interesting.
I never plan anything, and which is probably the difference between Mick and myself.
As we move deeper into Exile on Main Street, which many consider the Stones' greatest album.
Mick needs to know what he's going to do tomorrow, and me, I'm just happy to wake up and see who's hanging around. Mick's rock, I'm roll.
Film 701, Sternberg, Bau Dietrich 195, Aufnahme 3.
Casino Boogie is a wild and wacky song on Exile on Main Street. Can't make sense of the lyrics and the meaning of Casino Boogie? That was sort of by design. The lyrics might seem a little strange, and that's because they were written in a unique way. Mick Jagger explained in an April 2010 interview that song was done in cut-ups. It's in the style of William Burroughs and so on. $1 Million Sad doesn't mean anything. We did it in LA in the studio. We just wrote phrases on bits of paper and cut them up, the Burroughs style. And then you throw them into a hat, pick them out, and assemble them into verses.
Casino Boogie would have been a song with no lyrics. So Keith and I just did this William Burroughs thing where we did all cut-ups. And I just wrote phrases and chucked them into a pile and picked them out.
We did it for one number, but it worked. We probably did it because we couldn't think of anything to write.
Yeah, anything goes here. We've got to get this done.
This lets the song have a cool, free-flowing feel. Even though it might not have a super deep meaning, it's still a fun listen. And hey, did you know the Stones have never played this song live? Maybe someday.
Rolling Stones, Crazy Nick, lay a couple of tickets on your friend Nick.
The highest debuting song of the week, it's called Tumblin' Dice by the phenomenal rock group that Time magazine says some far-out things about. The fan allegiance is not to rock as music. It's to the Stones as a socio-sexual event.
It's weird, you know, where your lyric things come from. Tumbling dice, I mean, I sat down with the housekeeper and talked to her about gambling. She liked to play dice, and I really didn't know much about it, but I got it off her, and I managed to make the song out of that.
Tumbling Dice is one of the most popular songs on Exile on Main Street. It's a super cool track that uses gambling and love as metaphors for life's ups and downs. This song features some interesting switch-ups in the band. Mick Taylor plays bass, Mick Jagger handles rhythm guitar, and Keith Richards rocks the lead guitar like always. Charlie Watts keeps the beat steady with his awesome drumming. And what really takes the song to the next level are the incredible backing vocals by Clyde King, Vanetta Fields, and Shirley Matthews. They add a richness and energy that makes you want to sing along. Thanks for watching. Until next episode, keep it rolling.